Kentucky hospitals and ICUs are packed with COVID-19 patients as the Commonwealth marks its second highest single-day case total of the pandemic.
And Governor Andy Beshear reported more than 5,400 new cases of COVID-19 at his briefing yesterday, and said the state set more hospitalization and ICU records last weekend. Beshear said there have been 37 deaths since August 15th, including one 27-year-old. His administration ran through the numbers and noted there was almost a 60,000 case difference between the totals this August versus August of last year.
Please, everybody, take this seriously. It's the most aggressively spreading. It is the deadliest variant in our entire fight. Yet, if you drive around most towns in Kentucky, you see us doing less.
Taking a more thorough look at the governor's report, Thursday, Beshear reported more than 1,700 new cases from kids. 45 more deaths were added to the statewide total, and the 7-day positivity rate sits at 13.29%. Currently, more than 2,000 Kentuckians are hospitalized with the virus, with 620 of them in an intensive care unit. Another school district had to close its doors, but not because of students in quarantine. According to its website, Owingsville schools in the eastern part of the state had to cancel classes today because they couldn't cover all the bus routes. That's just the latest in pandemic-fueled staffing shortages. Fayette County Public Schools has canceled 18 bus routes this morning.
The mounting pandemic problems are forcing state lawmakers to take action. A special session is slated to be called in a matter of hours and could start as early as Tuesday to address issues related to the pandemic. Now, the exact details of a special session are still being worked out, but Governor Andy Beshear says he has been talking with lawmakers since the Kentucky Supreme Court effectively allowed new limits on his power to take effect. Now the legislature has to sign off on any new COVID policies.
I really don't think there's as much disagreement on that as we hear, as opposed to people trying to get to the same place in slightly different ways. All I care about is that it works.
We have made an effort to put together a bill that will allow the centers to continue to operate in a safe manner and an efficient manner.
Lawmakers have also discussed a test and stay policy where students can stay in the classroom if they test negative, even after exposure to COVID-19. Governor Beshear says he's also open to the idea but wants to see more specifics. And more than 30 schools have temporarily closed due to COVID-19 instead of using their limited number of NTI days.
Now, Metro News 1's Crystal Sicard talked to the Kentucky Department of Education about their approach to non-traditional learning options this school year.
In Kentucky, public schools are allowed to use up to 10 days of non-traditional instruction days each school year. And Tony Cons-Tatman with the Kentucky Department of Education says the small amount gives the school district limited options when it comes to virtual learning.
Last year, there was some temporary changes that had been made to state law that allowed our districts to use NTI for several weeks, several months. And those changes that were made have since expired.
Cons-Tatman says in the past, school districts have been able to use NTI days in many different ways, and says the non-traditional learning days were never designed to exceed 10 days.
You can switch to non-traditional instruction. In the past, they've been used for snow, for flooding, for flu. Obviously, for last year, it was used for COVID. Sickness, those types of things.
Cons-Tatman says as COVID numbers increase around the state, more school districts are temporarily closing. Some closing due to staff shortages and others because of the limited amount of NTI days available.
So right now, the Kentucky Department of Education and our commissioner is working with the Kentucky Board of Education, Governor Andy Beshear, and legislative leaders on some potential changes that will create some additional options and hopefully some flexibility for our districts, because we know that these 10 days are not going to work for our districts.
Cons-Tatman says the KDE understands the frustration from families, staff, and students because of the pandemic, but they are working to find new ways to adapt to these difficult situations.
We know it's been an incredibly trying start to this school year. We know, and we certainly want, our focus is to have our students in school for in-person instruction. However, we are experiencing a really tough time with this pandemic.
Crystal Sicard, Spectrum News.
Crystal, thank you. We reached out to several school districts, including Fayette County Public Schools, to find out how the limited amount of NTI days may impact their in-person learning. We'll let you know when we hear back. To the latest out of the Northeast United States, we're now seeing the scope of what's become the deadliest part of Hurricane Ida's rampage across the U.S. The death toll keeps climbing, with more than 36 people killed in just the last 24 hours. Among the victims, a 2-year-old. Active rescues are underway in parts of Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. That's where at least 25 homes were destroyed or badly damaged by a tornado.
Unprecedented is almost an understatement. This is the first time ever we've had a flash flood emergency declared.
An extraordinary, sadly tragic, historic 24 hours in New Jersey. Look on either side of us right now in the impact.
And that dire situation there in the Northeast comes as residents on the Gulf Coast are also reeling from Ida's impact. More on that in the next half hour.
Protests broke out in Houston after the Supreme Court said it will not block a new ban on abortion in the state of Texas. Texas top attorney says he will not enforce the bill. It's exclusively enforced through private civil action, and private citizens are tasked with enforcing the law and could be awarded $10,000. There is also an exception for survivors of rape or incest who become pregnant as a result of a crime, but only for medical emergencies. Members of the Biden administration have commented on the decision, saying they are concerned about the action.
Of course we're worried that other states where there is a movement and an effort to prevent women from having access to health care will copycat these steps by the Texas that happened in Texas. Now, that is one of the reasons why the president thinks it's so urgent and why he has asked his team to act as quickly as possible.
Several reproductive rights groups filed an emergency request with the U.S. Supreme Court asking it to block the bill. A majority of justices declined to act.
NASA scientists are testing air taxis. Take a look at that. I think it could be a transportation option in the future. They're trying out the technology now with Joby Aviation. That company makes this all-electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. NASA is testing its performance and acoustics. Someday you might be able to take one of these between cities. And I'm just looking at that thinking, if I had one of those, think about how much easier, Mario, it would be able to get to the station, on the days when we're coming in and tell everyone else to stay home because it's snowing and icy and horrible. We could just jump in our little space vehicle and take off.
Like the Jetsons.
Just like the Jetsons.
That's right. You had a great way to use technology, and a lot of these new items or things are popping up pretty regularly of how they're testing out the future.
I know, and they seem so weird now, but someday we're going to look back at this and we're going to laugh at this clip because, it might be the norm. You never know.
That's right. Well, we'll mark this day and save the clip and then come back in 20 years.
Exactly. We'll put it in a time capsule.
That's right. Well, let's bring in meteorologist Kristen Walls, who is tracking a good-looking forecast for the entire state of Kentucky on this Friday.
Yes, well, if you guys enjoyed yesterday, you're certainly going to enjoy today's forecast. Let's talk about those numbers out the door early on. 63 in Louisville, even some 50s out there. A little bit of a cooler start, so you may need that lighter jacket as you head on out. So 57 in E-Town, 55 now in Lexington, and 61 up into Covington. So we have a few clouds that are drifting in from the north this morning. We're going to stay dry here locally, but again, a cold front sits off to our west, and you can see some of those scattered rain showers around portions of Iowa and down into Kansas. Eventually, that system is going to impact us for this upcoming Labor Day weekend. But average high temperatures, we're still going to be below average out there today. A lot of 80s. That's typically where we should be at. 87 for Bowling Green, typically at 86 in Louisville. We're talking numbers today generally in the upper 70s, low 80s, with Lexington today at 78, Bowling Green today at 83, and then Owensboro jumping up to about 82. Now overnight tonight, we're still going to be dry with a partly cloudy sky. Once again, cooling things off into the upper 50s and low 60s, and we're still looking at that low humidity even as we head throughout your weekend. So there are those scattered rain showers that will start to develop mainly towards the afternoon hours on Saturday into Saturday evening, but we're expecting 80 for Louisville, Covington 78, Lexington for your Saturday at 78 degrees. So as we take you hour by hour, notice that dry start. There's a look at lunchtime. Few of those showers around Paducah and Owensboro, but just a shower or two popping up Saturday afternoon. There's still going to be a lot of dry time, but the majority of the wet weather developing as we move throughout Saturday night into early Sunday morning. There's a look at 2 a.m. and the majority of the heavier rainfall drifting to our south into Bowling Green and London by early Sunday morning. And then we should start to see those improvements by Sunday afternoon. So your Sunday forecast, we're going to be in the upper 70s and low 80s, but tracking some of that sunshine, especially returning for your Monday. Temperatures will be warming up on your Labor Day. I'll look at just how warm it's expected to get. Your forecast, it's coming up.
All right, Kristen, thank you so much, and looking forward to another beautiful day out there.
Absolutely. A good day to get outdoors and enjoy all that sunshine, also the low temperature out there, too.
I know. What a way to kickstart the long weekend, right?
Cannot go wrong with that. And we have got a lot more to go on this Friday edition of your morning news. And just ahead, if you're looking for some weekend plans, don't worry. We have several fun and exciting event options for you to consider attending across Kentucky this weekend. We'll share what's happening in your weekend pass when your morning news returns in less than 3 minutes.